The Ghost Realm is in crisis. When it comes to the most severely corrupted and destroyed areas, the most dangerous place is undoubtedly the ferocious soul domain, especially considering that it is ruled by that one entity. That entity is none other than the Thunder Lord, a figure whose fame has spread far and wide across the great thousand worlds. Thus, most of the invading army from the extraterritorial evil clan has gathered in the ferocious soul domain, followed by the soul-devouring domain. The extraterritorial evil clan is led by the seventh evil god, the seven-eyed evil god, with the combined strength of one evil god, two half-evil gods, 7 red king-tier powerhouses, and countless other strong beings. If it weren't for the intervention of some hidden experts from the Ghost Realm, as well as the assistance from the center of the Ghost Realm, the entire Ghost Realm would have already fallen and become part of the extraterritorial lands. The seventh evil god, fearing the terrifying power of the Devourer of Souls, made the bold decision to send a half-evil god, 4 red king-tier powerhouses, and numerous king-tier experts to lead the charge into the soul-devouring domain. Other forces have scattered to attack the Ghost Abyss domain, the kingdom of 10,000 ghosts, and other vast regions of the Ghost Realm. In an instant, the entire Ghost Realm has been thrown into turmoil. Everyone knows that this is not just a catastrophe. It is the first massive clash between the Great Thousand Worlds and the extraterritorial evil clan after the Great War of the Heavens. Thankfully, several reincarnation stage experts who had long been in hiding within the Ghost Realm have revealed themselves, and with the aid of the Ghost Realm's central forces, the Ghost Realm has managed to avoid complete collapse under the extraterritorial onslaught. As for the main force of this attack, the seventh evil god leads the army into the ferocious soul domain. As a result, the entire Ghost Realm is filled with unease. Countless cities have already been abandoned, and nearly all surviving creatures have sought refuge underground or in the deep mountains, waiting for salvation or their final counterattack. Xiao Yan and his companions broke through the dimensional rift, not daring to make any stops along the way, heading straight for the headquarters of the soul-devouring domain. Along the way, they encountered almost no signs of life from the Ghost Realm's inhabitants. It was unclear whether they were hiding underground, or had all been exterminated and corrupted by the extraterritorial forces. They passed through countless abandoned cities and fortresses, all eerily silent, as if they had been bloodily washed away. This scene only intensified Xiao Yan's already agitated heart, making him even more anxious. The Devourer of Souls and the soul-devouring domain have many allies from ancient times. If this region were to fall, Xiao Yan would find it hard to bear such a blow. Just ahead is the core fortress of the soul-devouring domain. The soul-devouring fortress is a crucial stronghold that binds and suppresses all of the soul-devouring domain's voids. It holds a vital position within the entire domain. After passing the fortress, we will reach the headquarters of the soul-devouring domain. I wonder how Teacher and the others are doing. 3 blazing flames raced ahead, warping the void as the lingering evil energy instantly dissipated into dust. Xiao Yan grinned, his eyes shifting as he clearly worried about the safety of the Devourer of Souls and others. After all, the overall strength of the soul-devouring domain was no match for the forces of the extraterritorial evil clan. Moreover, Xiao Yan had an unspoken feeling that the traitors from the Palace of the Great Thousand might be involved in this invasion. The soul-devouring domain? Mu Yingying murmured upon hearing this, then suddenly understood Xiao Yan's nervous expression. The Devourer of Souls had concealed himself within Xiao Yan's body from early on, and many of Xiao Yan's own matters were more or less related to this senior. Therefore, Mu Yingying also wished to express her gratitude to the Devourer of Souls in person. Time passed rapidly. Due to the void of the Ghost Realm being twisted and suppressed, the 3 of them had no idea how long they had been flying. Thankfully, Xiao Yan had the precise spatial coordinates for the soul-devouring domain, so they didn't waste any time on the way. As Xiao Yan's voice fell, the view ahead suddenly opened up, and the silhouette of a massive architectural complex slowly entered their sight. The fortress, nestled against the mountains and surrounded by water, was enveloped by a vast barrier formed entirely from heavenly and earthly energies. It looked like a grayish veil draped over the fortress, exuding an ancient, eerie aura, giving it an overwhelming presence in the natural world. This immense fortress, spanning dozens of miles, not only occupies a strategic location but also serves as a silent guardian of the only passage into the headquarters of the soul-devouring domain. This is the only passage into the soul-devouring domain. No one has entered since ancient times except through this route. Soul-devouring fortress. I'm back. A faint smile appeared on Xiao Yan's face as he gazed at the vast region before him, and he couldn't help but chuckle. As memories eased, Xiao Yan recalled the best commander within the fortress, the former acting domain lord of the soul-devouring domain, his senior sister, Hao Ni'er. This fortress, something feels off. Looking at the smile on Xiao Yan's face, Yunyan's expression grew colder, and her nerves suddenly jolted as if shocked by electricity. Her beautiful eyes flickered, and with the sensation of the sacred flame and other perceptions in her body, it seemed like she had detected something strange. The massive fortress had already become riddled with scars, surrounded by dense, black, smoke-like evil energy that completely sealed off the entire fortress. Beyond the fortress, black demonic clouds swirled, hiding a force so powerful it seemed to transcend this world. The intensity of the energy fluctuations was something Xiao Yan was not unfamiliar with. It was the supreme evil power wielded by evil god-level beings of the extraterritorial evil clan. A feeling of fear and unease quickly enveloped Xiao Yan's heart. Droning hum. From the void above the distant fortress, thunderous buzzing sounds echoed, emanating from within the fortress itself. Along their path, flying magical beasts outside the fortress, their faces twisted in pain, fell into pools of blood. Within those pools, it seemed as though some sinister, malevolent creatures were eagerly absorbing the life force of the fallen beings. Xiao Yan, there's an enemy? The moment the two women's eyes fixed on the black smoke at the fortress's edge, an indescribable fear surged within them. The aura hidden within that black smoke was clearly not something to be taken lightly. Even the sacred flame fluctuations within their bodies radiated an extreme chill of dread. Let's go, save them. This time they must die. Xiao Yan's face, which had been frozen in a grim expression, was now filled with a murderous intent of an unimaginable scale. His speed surged once again, and the expressions of the three of them instantly darkened as they merged into the void, rushing rapidly toward the soul-devouring fortress. Elsewhere, at the soul-devouring fortress, the fortress walls, as well as the moat beneath, were covered in corpses, the air thick with the stench of blood. The carnage was so brutal it left one dazed, the horrific scene hard to forget. My lord, you go first. On top of the walls, several high-ranking guardians, grimy and weary, stared at the woman before them, their expressions serious. After a pause, they gritted their teeth and spoke with difficulty. Despite the dire situation, these individuals showed no fear. Their intentions seemed to be to fight to the death. Let's fight to the death. The fortress must not fall. Hao Ni'er slowly rose, ignoring the weakness in her body. Her slender, jade-like hand gripped a small, mysterious knife. Her sorrowful smile was so beautiful it made one's heart ache. Her gaze, filled with authority, locked directly onto the few evil auras lurking within the black smoke surrounding the fortress. No. If you do this, you'll die. Watching Hao Ni'er force herself to stand, her eyes filled with resolute seriousness, Yu Mingxian, who had always stood by her side, his eyes bloodshot, almost instinctively roared. His voice was hoarse, his eyelids uncontrollably twitching, and his voice shook with a beastly intensity. He couldn't bear to watch his beloved perish before his eyes. This battle, it's a fight to the death. The evil god's energy avatar is too powerful. If I don't act, we will all die. As the commander, I may fall, but I don't want my subordinates to die with me. Blood stained her lips, but in her eyes was a powerful and unyielding authority, as if she had known what was coming all along. Yet, even if death was inevitable, she would not allow her subordinates to die in vain. Even as a woman, even if her strength could not change the course of this battle, she would still lead her soldiers to the front. This was her belief, and it was the proof of how she had risen to become one of the top experts in the soul-devouring domain. I won't let you do this. Wait here. I will stop them. You take the Lord and leave." Yu Mingxian stared at the rolling demonic clouds in the sky, gritted his teeth, and said bitterly. Since returning from teaching, in just a few years, the two women had already matured in their cultivation, and as soon as the right time came, they would marry and live in seclusion. Now, this situation had made his nerves tighten. But watching his beloved die before his eyes was something no normal person could accept. "I've already made up my mind. The two of you protect. Bai Zai, I leave him to you." Hao Ni'er looked at the determined Yu Mingxian and suddenly smiled. A smile so sweet it could overshadow everything around her. She understood Yu Mingxian's character, but this battle was not a game. The entire fortress has been breached. Do you want to sacrifice yourself for nothing? Listen to me. Yu Mingxian, holding back the fury in his heart, felt his eyes moisten with tears. He hated himself. He hated his weakness, the fact that he couldn't protect his beloved. Boom! As this scene unfolded on the fortress walls, a deafening roar exploded from beyond the fortress, like a rolling demonic sound filling the air. Upon hearing this, Bai Zai's spirits lifted, as though the very air around him contained the summons of death. Something's off. The evil god's energy avatar should be able to crush the fortress entirely, yet after being forced back by Lord Hao's 3 strikes a few days ago, why hasn't the final strike been delivered? Bai Zai, covered in wounds, shook his head. His gaze suddenly turned toward the headquarters of the soul-devouring domain behind him. By instinct, he couldn't shake the feeling that this time, the evil army had come prepared. There's only one way into the soul-devouring domain's headquarters, through the fortress. You may all rest assured, one of the other 2 guardians spoke, exchanging a glance with the others. They knew Bai Zai's concerns all too well, having been in the soul-devouring domain for many years. But when it came to the safety of the soul-devouring domain, they weren't about to make light of it. Kill! The sky echoed with the wailing of the dying, the walls of the fortress already showing signs of crumbling, ready to break at any moment. At that moment, the once clear sky was overtaken by swirling, pitch-black clouds of evil. Waves of sinister energy and sharp hostility emanated from them. Outside the massive fortress, the air turned unervingly cold and oppressive, lingering in the hearts of the long-standing strong warriors. But just as the tremendous dark energy was about to break through the fortress's high walls, a thick, murky gas suddenly surged from the fortress, intercepting it in an instant. Hidden within the fortress was an ancient formation capable of blocking even the strongest attackers, which was why everyone had held their ground so resolutely. The evil army should be preparing for a full assault. Bai Zai's expression turned wary as he gazed up at the swirling evil clouds in the sky. A sense of relief filled his heart. Within the dark clouds, waves of black smoke, the essence of pure evil, surged. A sneering man and several extremely powerful presences were slowly descending, casting their gaze over the fortress. Why bother with all this futile effort? The Ghost Emperor stood atop a thick, swirling black smoke, looking down at Hao Ni'er from a high vantage point. In contrast, the evil god's energy avatar stood quietly beside him, like a cultured scholar, but the aura emanating from the leaders was something that neither Hao Ni'er nor her group could handle. The overall strength of this extraterritorial army was simply too overwhelming for them. If it weren't for the countless soldiers within the fortress, fighting to the death to hold them back, this place would have long been turned into a sea of blood. The fortress's terrain was tricky, easy to defend but hard to attack, and with the advantage of natural barriers, it made it extremely difficult for them to seize the soul-devouring domain's headquarters. How are things progressing? The evil god's avatar took a step forward, its slightly ethereal body containing a sinister aura that could twist the entire sky. Progress? Hao Ni'er sneered. A bunch of filthy, extraterritorial parasites think they can make the soul-devouring domain bow before them? Hearing the words of the evil god's avatar, Hao Ni'er couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Her laughter was one of utter disdain and mockery, as though she were looking down on this evil army with contempt. My lord, why waste your breath on these fools? A massive, rock-like middle-aged man took a step forward with a crazed grin, saying, "If they refuse, kill them." The Ghost Emperor, a Red King-level powerhouse from the extraterritorial realm, was the leader of the assault on the fortress. "Let's fight then. Today, it's either you die or I live. No need for all this talk," he said. "You want to take our great 1,000 territories? It won't be that easy." Boom. After Hao Ni'er spoke, the exquisite knife in her hand began to tremble. Waves of eerie, black energy began to leak from it. Blood lightly stained the small knife, and immediately, a strange aura, overwhelming enough to eclipse the entire world, erupted from the blade like a fountain. The terrifying fluctuations swept through the high sky above the fortress. "It's Lord Hao Ni'er. Kill them." Seeing Hao Ni'er's powerful display, countless remnants of the soul-devouring domain's army within the fortress seemed to have consumed some kind of elixir, becoming highly energized. Roars erupted as they threw themselves at the enemy forces with reckless abandon. Using the Blood Soul Blade, fueled by her own essence blood, Hao Ni'er's actions gave the desperate remnants of the soul-devouring domain's army a glimmer of hope. "Your decision has truly disappointed me," the evil god's avatar said, gazing upward at the vast region behind the fortress. "But it looks like it's almost time. Let's begin." They saw a faint black beam of light rising slowly from the distance, causing Hao Ni'er and the others to feel uneasy. What are they planning? Xun'er and the senior members of the soul-devouring domain clustered around Hao Ni'er, their minds filled with unease as they heard the evil god's avatar's cold voice. "We will risk our lives to protect this pure land behind us," Hao Ni'er shouted, her eyes fierce with determination. "Even if it means risking everything, we will kill you. Then, let's see what you can do." Boom. The entire world was filled with overwhelming, sky-high demonic energy and a bloody aura. At the high sky above the fortress, several high-level beings with reincarnation powers, led by Hao Ni'er, cast cold, ruthless gazes. Their overwhelming offensive surged as they launched a fierce attack against the evil army. Boom. After the clash, Xun'er was forced back by the opponent's dark energy. His expression grew incredibly serious as he focused on the core battlefield ahead. His gaze shifted towards the battle between Hao Ni'er, the Wraith Emperor, and the evil god's avatar. There, a series of low, rumbling explosions could be heard. In that area, the void immediately transformed into a sea of blood mist under the fierce battle between the three. The immense power contained within was enough to make even these powerful beings feel a deep sense of fear. The evil lord's avatar only has the power of the peak of the fourth reincarnation stage. This human's ghostly energy, combined with that divine artifact, is truly something not to be underestimated. After a brief exchange, the Wraith Emperor, with a hint of murderous intent, gazed coldly at Hao Ni'er in the distance. The latter grew stronger with each passing moment, showing no sign of fear. For the first time, the exquisite dagger she wielded emitted an overwhelming aura of destruction that made him feel threatened. "Most of my power is focused in the ferocious soul domain, where there are troublesome entities. The energy clone won't last long. Once I finish dealing with this guy, the rest of the battle here will be yours." The evil god's avatar sneered coldly, mocking the intense attacks from Hao Ni'er. Endless, deep evil light swirled in its eyes, and gradually, the space around it transformed into a black hole. The dark power surged, making it nearly impossible to defend. Some of the weaker beings from the ferocious soul domain were easily absorbed into the void. With a single scream, they were obliterated before they could escape. "Ha! Teacher, please protect me." Seeing this, Hao Ni'er's body suddenly became radiant, shining brightly. A tiny, pure flame of primordial energy slowly floated out of her body, resembling a small, flickering flame. As the flame emerged, Hao Ni'er's face instantly turned pale, and all the blood energy in her body vanished, making her appear to have aged hundreds of years in an instant. "No. Master, no." Seeing this, the group of powerful beings led by Xun'er gasped, their eyes filled with sorrow and shock. Using almost all of her primordial energy to activate the evil artifact, The energy wave was barely enough to withstand the evil god's black hole. Hao Ni'er's actions were clearly aimed at saving them. Soul-extinguishing blade. One strike to destroy the soul. On Hao Ni'er's delicate face, a deathly aura surged, and she softly growled as she gathered strength. At this moment, it seemed she had already cast aside the concepts of life and death. Her only goal was to use her remaining strength to protect the ones she cared about. Nothing more. Boom. The sinister blade, greedy for power, instantly devoured the primordial flame. It turned eerily dark and deep, and under her wrist's control, it struck directly at the evil god's black hole. With a powerful strike, the black hole trembled as countless demonic shadows shrieked in fear and scattered. The crimson blade light tore through the void, crashing into the black hole, followed by numerous deep, resonating sounds as it swiftly obliterated the evil creatures within. Divine artifact, truly formidable. Watching Hao Ni'er's desperate actions, even the evil god's avatar couldn't help but show a hint of admiration. Black hole demon devourer. A moment later, the evil god's avatar showed no mercy. With a subtle flick of its wrist, it gripped the black hole tightly. At that moment, the once still black hole roared once more, and countless demonic shadows surged out from within. As they erupted, they howled towards the heavens. The demonic sound and endless evil energy enveloped the entire battlefield, as a dark, evil aura began seeping from the black hole. Countless demonic shadows poured out like a swarm of hungry insects, pouncing on the remaining army, which was already on the brink of collapse. A brutal killing aura caused the remaining soldiers to be unable to resist, and their numbers continued to dwindle. As the demonic shadows tore and touched them, many of the remaining soldiers were dragged into the black hole's abyss. In the blink of an eye, they transformed into demonic shadows, howling as they surged out once more. The endless wave of evil demonic shadows spread across the sky, turning this fortress battle into a hellish scene, like a land of death leading to the underworld. Second strike, soul cleave. Third strike, soul sever. Fourth strike, source of reincarnation. Seeing the tide of battle turn in favor of the enemy, the 3 strikes of crimson blade energy slashed out once more. 3 blinding light rings flickered through the void, and the black hole was torn apart. Thud. After 3 consecutive strikes, Hao Ni'er's breath sank into a weak state. Her eyes grew unfocused, her consciousness fading slowly as she entered a near-death state. Enough. At that moment, Yu Mingxuan's heart bled. His fingers slowly sank into his own flesh, gazing at the woman in the sky who had risked everything to save her subordinates. In this life, I do not regret knowing you. Fifth strike, 10,000 souls annihilation. It seemed that countless powerful beings could only vaguely see a terrifying crimson blood glow, at least tens of thousands of feet tall, surging out from above the fortress. The blood glow was densely covered with countless eerie, ominous, and destructive runes. Anyone who touched it would be obliterated, both body and soul. Not bad, too bad. Crack. Yuan Emperor, this is now in your hands. After breaking the fortress, lead the soul-devouring domain along with the evil spider-demon spider. Remember, what we need is not slaughter, but complete domination here. A mighty voice echoed, and immediately, the towering crimson blood glow, which seemed capable of annihilating all living beings, shattered like brittle ice under the pressure of the evil god's avatar. Boom! The crimson blood beams quietly descended onto the heavens and earth. Everyone in the fortress felt a chill in their hearts, as if they already knew that what awaited them next was only destruction. Mingxian, I'm sorry. Exerting the last of her strength, she unleashed 5 of the most powerful attacks. The soul-extinguishing sword hummed and trembled, as if reluctant to leave Hao Ni'er. However, her body was now covered in blood veins, her skin and expression resembling those of a frail old woman, a terrifying sight. She had just used nearly 90% of her original power to activate the soul-extinguishing sword, leaving Hao Ni'er with barely a trace of life remaining. But she had no regrets. To quote the words taught to her by the Lord of Soul Devourer, Whether you succeed or not, if you hesitate from the start, you have already failed. Your temper is always so stubborn. Looking back, it's a bit regretful. After all, I never got to let your little junior brother and master witness our wedding. However, it seems it won't happen this time. Yu Mingxuan stepped in the void, not a trace of anger in his eyes. He gently embraced Hao Ni'er's delicate body. No matter how she changed, she would always be his true love in this life. She looked even more docile, her voice soft and gentle, giving off the atmosphere of tragic, desperate lovers. Ha ha ha. This time, who can save you? Vengeful spirit, evil face. Let all of you become nourishment for this emperor. Looking at the scene, Yuan Emperor's face twisted with malice. A vast evil demonic face, tens of thousands of feet wide, crawled across the sky, with demonic energy slowly writhing as if with a single bite, the fortress would be completely obliterated. Go ahead. This life is not in vain. Ha ha ha. Bai Zhe, the two guardians, and the remaining hundreds of heavily wounded soul-devouring domain soldiers exchanged a look, their eyes gradually turning wild with madness. A few waves of energy surged, like fireworks about to reach their peak, ready to explode. The evil demonic face opened its massive mouth, greedily chewing at the void, and instantly, the space twisted and shifted. But no matter how the evil giant mouth tore and twisted the void, there was no sign of this world breaking apart. Even when the mouth reached the space surrounding the fortress and Hao Ni'er, a noble and sacred orange-golden fire fox appeared, as if a true heavenly monarch, its fury erupting. The orange-golden flames, carrying an earth-shattering wrath, surged up from every corner of the fortress void, countless sacred flames soaring into the sky. Senior sister, I'm late. At the very edge of the void, where the orange-golden fire foxes flickered, a slender figure appeared, appearing gentle yet filled with extraordinary fury, rushing forward recklessly. A mighty thunderous sound reverberated throughout the heavens and earth, making everything fall into eerie silence. The void fell dead silent, as if awaiting the return of a new emperor. Suddenly, countless rays of light tore open the dim void of the fortress. Orange-golden fire foxes, like the first rays of dawn, descended with a pure force. The fire foxes spread, and countless evil demon shadows and souls disintegrated. A terrifying aura spread, filling the entire fortress void with chilling, horrifying cries. Is this an illusion? Seeing this scene in the void, Hao Ni'er felt her eyelids grow heavy. She slowly closed her eyes. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't open them again, as if slowly descending into the abyss of death. Boom! The orange-golden fire fox erupted with terrifying force, releasing countless sacred purifying powers. Who goes there? The next moment, feeling the divine fire foxes before him, Yuan Emperor's face grew eerily cold with a murderous aura. As soon as Yuan Emperor's voice fell, 3 sharp auras, like drawn blades, surged into the sky with murderous intent, instantly dispersing the overwhelming demonic energy surrounding them. In the sky, 3 figures stood in the void, their eyes icy and cold, locking onto Yuan Emperor without blinking. The energy avatar of the evil god has disappeared. This army is left with only the Red King stage. Yun Yun's beautiful eyes opened, looking at the tragic sight around the fortress, blood flowing like rivers. Then she looked at Hao Ni'er and the others, their bodies riddled with wounds. Her heart ached as she spoke. Sensing the overwhelming and pure killing intent emanating from Xiao Yan and the others, the expression on the resentment emperor's face twisted into one of rage. The surrounding void began to distort slightly, as a massive wave of resentment energy, stretching across the entire sky, surged toward them. Glup! Xiao Yan? At this moment, Bai Zhe and the others, who were barely hanging on behind them, gasped in shock as they looked at the 3 figures suddenly appearing in the sky. Xiao Yan, this guy is an extraterritorial Red King stage powerhouse. His strength is no small matter. Immediately, Yu Mingxuan, holding Hao Ni'er tightly, gritted his teeth and hastily scolded. Yun, Ying, take care of my senior sister. Mm. The two women nodded slightly, and then drifted toward Hao Ni'er's position, one by one. With the presence of these two women, Hao Ni'er's remaining breath could naturally be preserved. Truly a bunch of lingering souls. Suddenly, Xiao Yan took a small step forward. A vast divine aura, like a rolling river, suddenly tilted down from the sky. Boom! The divine aura descended, and it caused the countless powerful beings of this evil army to feel an immense sense of oppression. Dragon God's Claw. Xiao Yan's eyes burned with endless rage. His expression cold, he stared at the distant, crazed resentment emperor. His hands slowly rose as the power of Dragon God transformation surged, and a brilliant cyan halo began to emerge from his body. An earth-shaking roar of a dragon, full of fury, echoed through the sky. Do you think you can erase this emperor? Not that easy. Watching Xiao Yan's murderous attack, the resentment emperor showed no fear at all. From the beginning to the end, Xiao Yan and the others had not yet fully revealed their true strength. Looking at Xiao Yan, who was about to engage in a deadly battle with the resentment emperor, Bai Zhe and the others. Gazes turned cold. They knew the immense strength of the resentment emperor, and Xiao Yan's actions were far too reckless. Don't worry. A mere Red King stage warrior can't withstand his fury, Mu Ying said as she transferred pure energy from her body, slowly nourishing the critically injured Hao Ni'er. The power of the two women was enough to pull Hao Ni'er back from the brink of death. Senior sister. Looking at Hao Ni'er slowly opening her eyes, her body and complexion gradually returning to normal. Except for her extremely weak vital energy, Mu Ying and Yun spoke quietly, their voices filled with relief. Resentment spirit magic devour. A silent, miserable scream echoed as a towering black light surged from the resentment emperor's body. It transformed into a black shield, tens of thousands of feet tall, instantly covering the entire fortress space. The terrifying killing intent spread, making the remaining people's hearts feel heavy once again. Such a powerful attack was not something they could resist. At this moment, countless pairs of eyes slowly focused on the slender figure in the sky, whose cyan halo pulsated like angry thunder. Come on. Seeing the vast killing aura contained in the black shield, Xiao Yan's demonic bloodline stirred with a greedy restlessness. He slowly raised his palm, and the cyan Baxia dragon shadow coiled upon it, forming a cyan dragon claw capable of breaking all techniques. Ha ha ha. Foolish humans, perish at this emperor's hands. The resentment emperor's mouth twisted into a cruel grin as he suddenly burst into maniacal laughter. The black shield instantly shrank, and countless demonic energies surged out like a world-destroying storm. In an instant, the entire void trembled, the earth quaked, and cracks began to appear everywhere. Even the very fabric of space was devoured by the storm, and fear and unease once again descended upon the souls of the strong from the soul-devouring domain. You should never, ever, lay hands on those I hold dear. Facing the resentment emperor's strongest attack, Xiao Yan, whose expression had been calm all this time, suddenly split his lips into a grin and roared like a true madman. He raised his palm, and a brilliant cyan aura surged as a 100-foot Baxia dragon shadow swiftly shot out. Within it was an aura of murderous intent capable of defying the heavens. Crack! The cyan dragon claw twisted slightly, and then, carrying overwhelming and terrifying energy, it silently slashed through the void toward the resentment emperor. Demonic energy surged, and countless faces of demons and resentment spirits flew out, but they couldn't resist the cyan dragon claw. With a single swipe, the black shield was shattered and crushed. No, it's impossible. Seeing his strongest attack easily destroyed by Xiao Yan, the resentment emperor's face trembled in disbelief. Boundless fire domain, Xiao Yan. The dragon's roar resounded, and the cyan aura swelled. All the demonic energies in the heavens and earth were slowly purified and wiped away. A terrifyingly strong aura began to slowly spread out from the fortress. Fifth tier? At this moment, The many strong men guarding the fortress were shocked, their hearts filled with excitement. "Senior sister, are you all right?" It seems that the world-shattering dragon god's claw was easily unleashed by the latter, who now appeared no different from an ordinary person. Facing her senior sister, he showed a sincere and simple smile. "You brat." Hao Ni'er's beautiful eyes slightly widened as she looked at Xiao Yan, who was smiling at her. Her heart finally relaxed a little. There might be an issue at headquarters. A moment later, Hao Ni'er, still struggling with her serious injuries, looked sternly and said, Ing, leave a space coordinate here and send reinforcements to the people scattered in the Ghost Realm. Let them guard the fortress. We should head to the headquarters of the soul-devouring domain first." Xiao Yan spoke again, handing out several high-level pills and once more expending a massive amount of Do-Array master power to lay down an intricate web here. This guy's power, truly becoming more and more extraordinary. Looking at Xiao Yan and the others flying towards the headquarters of the soul-devouring domain, many high-ranking figures who recognized him couldn't help but speak out, their voices filled with extreme envy and respect. "Xiao Yan, wait, there seems to be some strange restriction set here." The distance between the fortress and the headquarters was only about 100 miles. For the three of them, it should have been just a few minutes, yet half an hour had passed, and the three of them remained suspended in the void. Yun, with her meticulous mind, slightly opened her beautiful eyes and immediately noticed something. It seemed as if this space had been isolated by some powerful force, as if someone was secretly suppressing something. No matter how fast they tried to accelerate, the distance to the headquarters remained as distant as ever. It was as though they were trapped in a temporal and spatial loop. A mirage technique? Crack! Hearing Yun's cold voice, an invisible ripple of energy spread out from Xiao Yan. Suddenly, countless mirrors shattered in the air. The originally clear sky was unexpectedly covered by a dense, endless layer of dark demonic qi. The peaceful and clear sky was merely a mirage, a trick applied by someone. The true path to the headquarters of the soul-devouring domain was now filled with an overwhelming presence of extreme evil, and as for the safety of the headquarters, perhaps, the headquarters is in danger. The three exchanged glances. At the center, obscured by black smoke, a faint, eerie light seeped out, carrying terrifying waves of power that no soul-devouring domain expert could resolve. That was the headquarters of the soul-devouring domain. The evil aura here was even more oppressive than the evil army besieging the fortress. "Let's go." Xiao Yan's eyes were filled with a cold, lifeless killing intent. A brilliant flame erupted from his body, transforming into an enraged giant dragon, spiraling in the air. An indescribable fury and the oppressive force of the heavens and earth swept through, like a storm descending upon the world. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the soul-devouring domain, the once bustling headquarters of the soul-devouring domain, filled with powerful experts, now appeared desolate, devoid of life. The entire headquarters, a magnificent palace floating in midair, was completely imprisoned by long, dark smoke and qi. Even the beings walking through the grand hall were filled with an extreme evil aura, their eyes lifeless, like walking corpses. These creatures were no longer human. The entire headquarters seemed to be a prison, locked down by some unknown force. Even some of the soul-devouring domain's strongest were seemingly controlled by someone. At the center of the hall, several figures stood. Among them was a vicious woman with a spider tattoo on her forehead and several other fierce-looking experts, emanating an overwhelming murderous aura that suppressed the remaining souls in the hall to their lowest point. Feng Yanghao, as a domain lord, why lead them to make such foolish decisions? Submit to us, and you will gain endless wealth and power. The woman sat on a stone throne in the hall, her beautiful eyes glimmering. A terrifying power, enough to easily overwhelm everyone, emanated from her, rippling through the hall. Looking around the hall, apart from the stairs above, the lower area had been corrupted by some evil force, forcibly creating a 100-meter-deep abyss. The abyss was covered in countless ominous patterns, constantly draining the power of those trapped. In the abyss, Snakes, insects, rats, ants, and various other demonic creatures crawled endlessly. At the bottom of the abyss, several figures covered in wounds were visible. 5 halls of Yama of the Xiao clan, Xiaomu, affiliated with the soul-devouring domain. This time, the harvest is indeed quite rich. But you don't need to waste any more effort. My evil domain's malevolent aura is unmatched, and with your strength, you will never break free. Seemingly noticing the resistance of the people in the abyss, the woman in the stone throne chuckled lightly. Xun'er. In the abyss, black energy surged like molten lava, exuding a power of evil to the extreme. Under the overwhelming presence of this force, even Fang Yanghao's expression turned grim. The headquarters of the soul-devouring domain was ambushed and has now completely fallen. Earlier, we joined forces, using the soul-devouring talisman for protection, and sent the Dragonblood Martial Emperor away. Now, we can only place our hopes on the Dragonblood Martial Emperor. The leader, Second Yama Xiao Yan, spoke with regret in his voice. After the Demon Emperor rescued them, they quietly dispersed and hid within the Ghost Realm to recover. With the extraterritorial evil clans launching an assault, the 10 Yamas were spread across the soul-devouring domain and the ferocious soul domain, each holding a 50-50 share. Second Yama Xiao Yan, with his peak 5th reincarnation stage strength, led 5 other Yamas from levels 10, 9, 8, and 7 to defend the soul-devouring domain. Even with the sudden emergence of Xiao Mu and the Dragonblood Martial Emperor from the Void Passage, this combined force could not match the power of the half-evil god in front of them. The half-evil god, Evil Spider Demon Spider. A peak 5th reincarnation stage powerhouse, with 2 peak 4th reincarnation stage Red Kings backing him, and not to mention the large army of evil forces. The fortress was in crisis, and Fang Yanghao, as the new lord of the soul-devouring domain, was stationed at the headquarters. Several times, he tried to send troops to rescue the fortress, but for some unknown reason, they were secretly attacked by the half-evil god and his army, catching them completely off guard. Now, the entire headquarters of the soul-devouring domain has fallen into their hands. Even Fang Yanghao himself had no idea how they knew about the second route to the soul-devouring domain headquarters. Everyone, are you still going to make useless efforts? Swallow this pill, and you will submit to the extraterritorial forces, gaining an eternal, undying body. Otherwise, the snakes, insects, rats, and ants under my command have long coveted the power on your bodies. Chirp, chirp. The evil spider demon spider sneered, and in the abyss, the harsh sounds of countless evil creatures gnawing and scraping echoed. The shadow of the half-evil god stepped onto the sky, surrounded by overwhelming demonic energy. Several powerful auras lingered around, all waiting in ambush. There is still a final glimmer of hope. If we use the pinnacle immortal arts as a diversion, but you have already lost the soul-devouring talisman and cannot ignore her evil power. If you insist, the cost will be too high, and you will die without a burial ground. Second Yama Xiao Yan and Xiao Mu exchanged glances, seemingly wanting to deny this final solution. Xun'er, please act. Many of the strong in the soul-devouring domain have already been controlled by them. Their goal may not only be the soul-devouring domain. Please, seniors, take the last hope of the soul-devouring domain and escape. Despite the tragic cries, Fang Yanghao simply smiled, clearly indifferent to death. Boom. Ignoring the evil power surging within him, his entire body resisted the endless pressure from the abyss as he shot straight towards the half-evil god outside in a furious burst. Good, then let's start with you. The evil spider demon spider looked at the stubborn ones in the abyss below, sneering. If not for the evil god's command to avoid indiscriminate killing, they would have long since become his fallen souls. But this way, once they are refined, they will become loyal servants of the extraterritorial evil clans, greatly boosting their strength. Ah! Snakes, insects, and rats surged from the abyss, their cold, greedy eyes and bloody lips locking onto Fang Yanghao's body. Children, your lunch is here. As the evil spider demon spider's voice echoed, countless creatures swarmed forward, completely enveloping Fang Yanghao's body. With the sound of countless legs and tails scraping, Fang Yanghao's body twitched and convulsed as the cold and sharp sensations pierced his nerves. The spasms spread throughout his body. Enduring this excruciating dual torment, Fang Yanghao's lips suddenly curled into a savage grin, and a crazed roar erupted from within. In the ghost realm, we have never had cowards who fear death. Ha 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 ha. Fang Yanghao endured the relentless gnawing of demonic beasts that could tear apart both his mind and soul. His face twisted into a snarl as he howled. At the same time, within the dark abyss below, an incredibly violent and pure energy began to gather and rise rapidly. It was the energy of pinnacle immortal arts.